Hi, so I'm wearing my glasses today. We are going to do a little lesson today on improving your balance and your spine. So we're going to do it standing to begin with. We are going to get down onto the floor, but not just yet. So you're going to start in a standing position and have your feet not too close together. If you have your feet too close together, it's going to affect your balance. So have about hip bone or hip width apart. And then just notice how your toes are resting on the floor. Are they long? Are they grabbing the ground? Are they lifted? Just notice your feet. Notice your breath, but notice your eyes where they're looking. Can you just don't look at the screen, but just imagine a distant horizon in front of you and look at that distant horizon, looking way ahead in the distance. Your feet are a comfortable distance apart. You're looking at the horizon. What are your arms doing? Lovely. And you're going to start this little movement by lowering your hands down to the floor. Uh-oh. So if you need to be near the wall for balance, you can do that. If you don't want to be in the middle of the room, you can come and stand so you're kind of sideways onto the wall because you're going to be sticking your bum out as you come down onto your hands. So you don't want to be with your back against the wall. So maybe if you're sideways on, you could use your hand if you needed that to be there as reassurance if you need it. So start to lower your hands down to the floor, to touch the floor, bending your knees as you do so. Okay? Bend your knees, lower your hands to the floor, lower your head. Now, as you bend your knees, your head goes down. And when you start to come up, your head comes up last. So don't come up with your neck because you'll start to shorten your neck. So as you come up, your head comes up last. So just be nice and gentle and slow. Okay? If you only want to do it once, just do it once. That's totally fine. You don't have to do it loads of times. You're just bending your knees as you go down because we're not stretching. Your neck hangs down as you go down. Lovely. And it's almost like when you bend your knees, you're looking between your legs. And then when you come up, your head comes up last. Everything else comes up first. Okay. So the next time you bring your hands down to the floor, you're going to stay down there. So I'm pretending I'm doing it in my head, so that's why my head's dropped down. So you're staying down there. Your feet are as wide as possible. Your hands and feet are as flat as possible on the floor. If it's on fingertips, that's totally fine. Now you're bent over, so very slowly and small. Think about your pelvis lowering down towards the ground and then lift it back up. So as if you've got eyes in your sit bones and you're looking at someone behind you and then looking towards the ground, looking at someone behind you, or somebody really cute just walked in the room, and then put your pelvis as if it's your eyes looking down to the ground. Breathe, let your head hang down. Okay. You could pick a spot on the floor, look at the floor between your hand stays on the ground. It's just your bum going up and down. The entire foot is on the ground if you can do that. Okay, stop, stand up. The head comes up last and rest in standing. Have a walk around if you want to, or you can have a sit down. You can pause the video and go and have a cup of tea. So we worry about falling as we get older, don't we? We kind of tend to walk and shift from side to side. And if our feet are one's usually flatter and one's usually arched, or they're both arched, and if you have an imbalance in one of your sides, then we tend to fall over because you don't feel so balanced on that side. So we're going to kind of help with this lesson. So we're going to go again. So if you felt a little bit unbalanced, find somewhere in the room where you feel you could do this. Don't say you can't do it. Feel as if you can do it. Do you want to go and stand by the sofa? Do you want to stand by your chair? Do you want to stand by a chair in the kitchen? Do you want to stand by the bed? To find somewhere where you can do it and you feel safe. Okay, so spread your feet as wide as you need to feel comfortable. Okay, this time you're going to lower your hands, but lower them over towards your right leg. So as you do that, your left hand will be somewhere between the legs and your right hand's going to be on the outside of your right foot. So lower yourself down, put the hands down. So all 4 points are touching. Right hand's on the outside of the right leg or the right foot. So palms are down or you're on your fingertips and bend your knees to make it possible to bend your knees, head hanging, hang the head. So you're as if there's water pouring out the top of your head. And lift and lower your bum again. So your sit bones go up as if they're seeing somebody gorgeous come in the room, and then the sit bones come back down. Breathe. We'll lie down in a bit, don't worry. Lovely. That's it. Your hands go well on the right. Lovely, lovely. That's it. Just lower the pelvis up and down. See how much weight goes into your hands. And then slowly the head comes up last, come up. It's going to feel a bit weird, but you'll notice what we're doing in a minute. So we're going to go over to the left side. It might feel very different to the right. So bring your hands over to your left side, let your head drop, bend your knees and go down into that bent knee position as low as you need to go so your hands can be on the floor. You might only be on your fingertips, you might be flat with your hands. Okay, so the left hand's on the outside of your left foot or your left leg and the right hand somewhere between the feet, so maybe close towards your left foot. Okay, hang your head's hanging, knees are bent, and if possible, keep your heels on the floor if you can do that, and lift and lower your pelvis a little bit up and down as if your sit bones are looking towards that gorgeous person behind you, and then looking down towards the floor. Head stays down. Very nice. Okay, so stop, rest, head comes up last, and then come and lie on your back. Come and lie on your back. Lovely. Take a nice long rest and notice your contact to the floor. Lovely. So legs can be long. That's it. The legs don't have to be bent, completely up to you. If they're bent, that's fine. If they're long, that's fine. Take a nice long rest. You've earned it from doing that. Notice your contact to the floor. Lovely. Notice your breath. Notice the back of the head. Notice your shoulder blades. Lovely. So now this time you're going to roll over onto your hands and knees. So if you feel you've rested well enough, come over onto your hands and knees. If you need more rest, please pause the lesson. Okay. It's more than fine. If you want to have a longer rest, that's fine. If you want to stop the video, come back another day and carry on, you can do that. So if you want to carry on, we're on the hands and knees. So you go all over onto your side, come up onto your knees. Lovely. To let your toes extend so your toes are resting on the floor. And then you tuck your toes underneath you. So the pads of the toes are on the floor. So as if you're about to do like on the runner block, you're about to run around the track. A bit like that. And on your hands. And begin to send your pelvis back a little bit towards your heels and then come forward. So let your head drop as you go back, and as you go forward, lift your head to look towards the horizon and then go back, drop the head. So trying to find a way of resting back on your feet. Your back, pelvis goes back towards your feet, and then as you come forward, you're looking towards that lovely horizon, as if you're looking at the sunset. That's it. Sitting on your heels, you're finding you're going back, hands stay on the floor. Just play with that a little bit. So this feeling of when you're going back towards your heels, so you can sit on your heels and as if your sit bones are going towards your big toes. Then you come back onto all fours and then on your hands and knees and you look upwards towards the horizon. That's it. Just playing with that lovely forwards and backwards movement. And then see if you can stay back there. Can you stay back there? Does it feel comfortable to do so? Sit towards the heels. Lovely. Keep your hands on the floor. Breathe. It's a bit like child's pose, but your toes are tucked under. Lovely. Come forwards one more time on your hands. So you feel the weight on your hands. Is it different from right to left? And the next time you go back, sit towards the heel. So maybe sit towards the heel. Can you slide your right knee forward? So go back with your right knee only. Begin to slide the right knee forwards on the floor. So you bring it in front a little bit. Leaving your right knee forward, sit back again. Sit back as you've been doing, but sit straight back. So it'd be easy with the right knee pointing forward to tilt back to the left, isn't it? So don't do that. So come back to where you were. So toes tucked under and you're going forwards and backwards. Now, as you go backwards this time, stay back there and slide your right knee forwards a little bit. So it comes forward a little bit. Come back up onto your hands. Your knee stays where it is and then go back to the middle again. But your knee slightly forwards. That makes sense. So you just slid the knee forward a little bit, a couple of inches or millimeters, or just a hint of a movement if you feel it feels tricky. Let your head hang down, lower your head as you go back. Let your head hang every time you go back. And as you come forward, you're looking towards the horizon. You're on your hands. Nothing's changed with the left leg. Sitting back, right knee forwards, on all fours. That's it. Now put two knees back to the neutral position and go back with your head hanging forwards and backwards. As you go back, head hang, come forward, and the head hangs. That's it. Lovely. Now please stop, roll over onto your back, take a rest. Take a rest. Keep looking out the window because it's you can see I've got a jumper on. It's quite cold outside, wintry, and a lot of snow. I'm watching the dog playing with the snow outside. Lovely. Ah, resting on your back. Nice. And then come back over onto your hands and knees. Lovely. So hands equal, knees equal. Lovely. Turn to the exact same movement of thinking of sitting back onto your heels. Every time you go back, the head drops. Lovely. So you know what I'm going to ask you to do this time? Your left knee is going to come forward a little bit. So let your left knee come forward. It slides forward a little bit. And then you take the pelvis back to sit on the heels in the middle. So you're not veering off to the left or to the right. You're staying down the middle. Then coming forward again, looking to the horizon. And as you go back, the head drops. That's it. Nice. Don't forget to breathe. Relax your jaw. And then bringing that left knee back so they're in line with each other. So both knees are in line with each other. And you just go forward and back again. And as you sit back, you lower your head and lift the pelvis up. And as you lift the pelvis up, come onto all fours, lift the head and look at the horizon. Drop the head, sit back. Lovely. Lovely. So coming forward, lift your tailbone, look up at the horizon. And then sit back, drop the head, let the sit bones go back to your heels. Lovely. Okay, so come up to a standing position. So however you want to do that, however feels safe and comfortable for you to do so, come up to standing. If you need to hold on to a piece of furniture or the wall, or bring your one foot out in front of you and push yourself up like that. So feet in a comfortable width, comfortable distance. And we're going to go back to this move we did in the beginning. So bend your knees, drop your head, put your hands down and go put your hands on the floor between the feet somewhere, the knees bend, the head hangs, and lift and lower your pelvis as if your sit bones are looking at someone behind you and then looking back to the floor. It can be a very small movement, it doesn't have to be huge, just lifting and lowering the pelvis. Head stays dropped. That's it. Doesn't matter how big or how small the movement. Just matter how clear, just be aware of how clear the movement is. Are you really lifting and lowering that pelvis? Lovely. Then let it go and come and lie on your back. Now, maybe that time around it felt a little bit different because we've done a little bit more work on the hips. Come and lie on your back, close your eyes for a moment. Notice the ground supporting you and notice your breath. And then come over onto your hands and knees again. Uh-oh. Lovely. So you're going to bring the right knee slightly forward and you're going to sit onto the pelvis as your head hangs. Sitting back onto the pelvis, let your head go, then lift the pelvis up and your knees come parallel. So that right knee comes back. Lovely. So looking at the horizon. And then when you sit back again, the right knee comes forward and then come back. And as you come back up onto your hand, still on the hands and knees, but looking towards the horizon, your right knee goes back. So this time the left knee comes forward a little bit and then sit back. Don't go sit back to the right or the left, but you're sitting back as if you're drawing a line down the middle. Let your head hang. Hands stay on the floor. And when you come up, look at the horizon. Let your left knee go back in line with your right knee. Let your left knee come forward a little bit. Sit back down the middle. Let your head go. And then bring yourself up. And the left knee goes back to where it was in line with your right knee. So they're going to alternate it this time. The right knee comes forward a little bit. Sit back to the middle. Let your head go. And then come back up. The right knee goes back in line with your left knee. Look to the horizon. Then the left knee comes forward a little bit. Sit back onto your sit bones. Let your head go. Let your head hang. And as you come up, look to the horizon. Your left knee goes back in line with your right knee. And rest all over onto your back. All over onto your back and rest. It's good to have these rest in between so you don't keep moving. So you just kind of integrate the movement with your nervous system and you don't feel like you're always going, always moving. Close your eyes for a moment and notice your breath. Lovely. And then come back up well over onto your side and come back up onto your hands and knees. Lovely. Hands and knees come back to being on all fours. Now you're going to swing your lower legs left and right. So you're going to, how do you do that? So think about your heels. So swing your heels to the left and then to the right, like a little tick tock movement. So you're staying on your hands and your knees. The knees don't change location on the floor. You just rotate the lower legs, go left and right. But think about it from your heels point of view. There they go from one direction and then to the other. That's it. Like windscreen wipers on your car. Like they're waving at somebody behind you. Lovely. Tick, tock, tick, tock. Lovely. Lovely. And then rest. Sit back onto your heels. The hands stay on the floor for a moment. Lovely. And then come back up onto your hands and do that again with your heels, going to the right and going to the left. Now, is there one side that feels easier than the other? The moving? That's it. Lower legs, left and right. And the all windscreen wipers. Lovely. And then rest it. Lovely. Wherever you feel you want to rest. Okay. So actually sit back now so you don't have to have your hands on the floor. Can you do that? So you're sitting tall, so in like a tall kneeling position. Sit on your knees and your feet, so you can sit back on your feet or sit up off your feet. So your chest and head are looking forward. Your hands aren't on the floor. So look at that distant horizon. So try not to look at the screen because you might find it's restricted for your eyes. So look at somewhere out the window or looking at a plant in your room or on something on the shelf or maybe through a door at the other room. Lovely. So that's it. So your hands on the floor, chest and head looking forwards. Lovely. And now put your butt on your glutes, your bottom, whatever you want to call it, your derriere. That's a nice word for it, isn't it? The derriere on your heels and then bring them off the heels. So sit back onto your heels and then come back off your heels. So your derriere goes towards your heels. Lovely. Now place your left hand on the floor, your right hand on your thigh. So you're going to be sitting back now onto your heels, left hand on the floor, right hand on your thigh, and lift your pelvis up, leaning on your left hand only. Lovely. Stay there. So you're lifting your pelvis up, leaning on your left hand, and now swing your heels to the right, only to the right, back to the middle, to the right. So not the pelvis, just your heels. So heels to the right, and then back to the middle. Swing your heels and your lower legs enough to the right, and then lower your pelvis back down to the floor, not to the right, but down to the middle. Your left hand stays on the floor, right hand on the thigh, pelvis goes to the middle, down towards the floor, and your heels are to the right. Relax your feet, just pivot the lower leg, come back to the middle with the lower leg. You might lift your pelvis, and then lift the pelvis back to the middle, and your heels go to the right. Left hand stays on the floor. Just get what you get for now. Just notice what you notice. Swinging your heels to the right and then keep them there. Keep them there. And now start to lower the pelvis down, straight back to sit. Keep your lower legs where they are to the right. Your left hand can go to the left to help you get back to the floor if you want to. And then come back up. Swing the legs back to center. And then do it again. So hand stays on the floor, right hand on your thigh, heels to the right, lower legs to the right, pelvis goes down, lower your pelvis down to the middle, the buttocks down on the floor if that can go as far that far. It might not. It does touch your heels, but your heels are to the right. Don't forget to breathe. Look up to the horizon now when you're sitting. Could you even take your left hand off the floor? Could you do that? And then come back onto all floor, all to all fours, onto all floors, onto all fours. Lovely. And pivot the legs back to the middle. And one more time, take the heels to the right, drop the head. Left hand can stay on the floor for a moment. Let your sit bones, let your bum go back to the middle, going back, sitting back on that. And then come back up onto that hand. And then see if you can do it quickly. So heels to the right, sit bones go down the middle, let your head drop, then come back up, look to the horizon, bring your heels back to the middle, and then go back down again. So heels to the right, sit bones go back, come back up. So maybe you can go quicker. Find your balance, find your way of comfort. Relax your jaw. And then come back up onto all fours and bring your legs back to the middle where they were. Oh, lovely. Pause and rest if you want to. Because now we're going to do the whole thing, but to the left. Uh-oh. Okay. So swing your legs to the left. The heels go to the left and then back to the middle. Just start there with the heels. So sensing what your heels are doing. And they might feel very different this time. Might feel very different. So heels to the left and then back to the middle. Lower legs to the left. You'll feel the lower legs moving just by thinking about the heels. You've got two bones in your lower legs that rotate around each other. That's it. The next time your lower legs go to the left, keep them there. Let your head drop and then sit back with your pelvis. Sit back. Lovely. The pelvis goes straight back, but it might sit a little bit to the right. Your right hand can come over to the right and your left hand can go onto your leg. And notice whatever happens to your ribs, your pelvis and your spine. Lovely. And then come back up. Bring your pelvis back to the middle. Bring your heels back to the middle and then drop your heels back to the left again. Bring your pelvis back. One side will feel very different to the other. Does it feel easier or trickier? So now can you begin to alternate? Maybe let your heels go to the right side, let your pelvis go down to the middle, drop your head. You want to put your left hand on the floor, right hand on your thigh, or you could put both hands on the floor. Come back to the middle, bring your hips, bring your heels back to the middle, bring the pelvis back up so you're on your hands and knees. You can look to the horizon or you can keep your head down and then take the heels back to the other side. Lovely. And then bring your heels back to the middle, take the heels over to the right. Lovely. Sits down to the middle and then come back to the middle with your heels onto your hands and knees, and the heels go to the left and sit back, which feels more easier. Just feel for yourself. Pause when you need to. Pay attention to the relationship between the lower ribs, the lower spine, and your pelvis. Going from one side to the other in your own time and in your own way. There is no need to do it badly. Please do it badly. There's no to think about, no perfectionism here, no thinking about doing it right or doing it well or doing it good. Just find a way to maybe try to feel that as you're alternating, can you eliminate the use of one of the hands? As you swing your legs and come down, which hand do you need to put down? Could you let go of that hand or be lighter in that hand? Lovely. Maybe you could change the hand. You can come up through the knees without going back. Can you come up through the knees without going back on all fours? Now just go from one side to the other without using both your hands. You don't need to go back on all fours. So come up on one hand and keep your head looking up at the horizon and go over to the left and then go over to the right. So don't sit back so far now. So the movement stays more in the middle. Lovely. Maybe use one hand and then as you go to the other side, change hands. Lovely. Please stop and rest. Lie on your back. Lie on your back. Stretch your legs out if it feels nice for you to do so. We're just exploring and opening up different pathways in the movement of the neurological system. So we kind of, it's a bit like when you go for a walk. So it's been snowing here where I am, and if you're going for a walk, it's quite nice to actually walk through somewhere where no one's been walking before, and you can walk through the snow. You've got a lovely sound to it, and it's if you're walking and you're creating a new pathway. And this is kind of what we're doing with these movements, these exercises, is creating new pathways of maybe you've been blocked before, maybe have no entry sign through pain or had an accident, and certain pathways have been blocked, certain pathways, certain movement where you don't go because you're worried, like especially if you're worried about balance, certain things that you don't do. And so these little exercises are designed to help you explore what is and what isn't in your body, things that you don't notice, little habits that we build up over time. Lovely. So please come back up onto your knees. You can stop there if you want to. You don't have to do any more. We're just going to finish off another on your knees exercise. But if you don't want to do any more, that's totally fine. You can come back and finish it off. The beauty of these exercises is that you don't have to do the whole thing. So if you're feeling tired now and you've had enough, you'll listen to that and listen to what your nervous system is saying. But if you want to carry on, okay, so we're going to go back onto the hands and knees. But this time you're going to swing the legs to the right, place the left hand over to the left and move your pelvis back to sitting. So sit back, your left hand is going down on the ground all the way over to the left as you swing the heels over to the right. So lean on your left elbow. So don't go anywhere else at the moment. So you've moved your heels to the right, left hand over to the left. The pelvis has gone back. See if you can lean on your left elbow. So how can you do that? If you can't do that, how can you find your elbow on the ground? And then go roll over onto your back. And leaning on the elbow is what we've been doing, thinking about. Just thinking about how could you then lower the shoulder down and up. Lovely. So come back up onto your hands and knees. Okay. So you're going to swing the legs, swing those heels. Lovely. To the right, place the left hand over to the left as much as you can. Move your pelvis back. So you're sitting backwards, sitting back. Sit back. Your left hand is down on the ground, way over to the left. It can be out straight, can be bent. So how can you lean on the left elbow? So how can you get down on that left elbow? Just think how you could. Then maybe lower your right shoulder down, your left shoulder. Can you bring the right hand over to support you? And then see if you could go a little bit further, maybe your head. And then how can you reverse it? So bring your head forward, bring your weight onto your forearm, come back up, bring your heels back, come back up onto your hands and knees. Lovely. So come over again. So hands over, lower yourself down. So the palm, then the elbow down, roll over onto your shoulder, move your heel. Maybe you can then roll over from here. Maybe you feel that you could actually keep going and roll over onto your back, onto your shoulders. Put your head down all the way as you roll. Whee, you've just rolled. And then can you reverse it? Can you reverse it? So bring your head forward, bring the weight onto your forearm, roll yourself back over, move your heels and come back into your sitting back on your heels and then come back up onto your hands and knees. Have a go again. So sit back, let the heels go to the right, left arm out wide, come down onto your elbow, hang your head. You don't have to go all the way if you don't want to, but see if you could, if you wanted to go further, could you roll over onto your shoulder and over onto your back? And then see how you could reverse that. So bringing your head forward, bring the weight onto your forearm, come back onto your hand, come back, So your heels come back and you come back with your sit bones and come back up onto your hands and knees. So can you just play with that? Like as if you were a child again, messing about on the floor, playing around with it. Find a way to hang the head, where you're going to place the hand. Maybe where you put the hand isn't right. Maybe you want to put it somewhere else. Getting up off the floor in a different way. Think about the floor being your whole world and use it to your advantage. How you use your shoulder, how you use your hands, how you use your heels, how you use your toes, and then come and rest on your back. Rest on your back. How does it feel on that side that you've just been working on? Bend your knees, let your feet come to standing if they're not already, so you're on your back and your feet are on the floor. Then visualize the movement that you could just roll straight up, so you would be able to, from this position, just visualize the movement that you could just roll straight up, so that you'd be sitting on your with your bottom down and your feet on the floor, and you could roll up to sit so that your pelvis and your feet are on the floor. You might begin by lowering your chin to your chest, softening your chest and ribs, and lifting your head up. And whether you do this movement right now or just imagine it, find a way to feel or sense, imagine it's possible for you just to come up from this position. Think of your head and your face looking straight between your knees as you come up. You could come up to sitting just by sitting straight up and then go back down. Get your chin to your chest, lift your head, exhale. Find a way to sit up from lying on your back with your knees bent. Maybe you want to roll over onto your side and use your hand. Use the floor and then rest. Use the floor. It's there for your support. Okay, now find a way then to come and sit. Come a way to sit up, however you do that. And place your hands in front of your knees on the floor. So have your knees bent, feet behind you. Have your hands on the floor in front of you. So your only hands and knees. And start to move your hands away from you. So you start to bring your head forward and down. So drop the head, look towards your knees. Think about lifting your pelvis as if you were going to come up to standing. So you're not going to do that, but your hands are moving away from you. Lift your pelvis as if your sit bones are looking up at that cute person behind you. So lift and lower your tailbone, lift and lower your pelvis, lift and lower your pelvis. Hands can be far away from you, hands can be closer towards you. Let your head stay down. Now, can you come up to standing in some way, however you do? Come up to standing. And then bend your knees when you get there. Let your head hang and place your hands back on the floor. Lift and lower your pelvis. Let the sit bones go up to look at the person behind you and then come down. So can your hands stay on the floor? Are you going further down now? With your pelvis, is it feeling you're moving a little bit more on that side? Up and down, head hangs. Now, if I was going to ask you to sit from this position, could you sit on your feet from this position? And what would have to happen at some point? The pelvis goes so far down and the knees would bend so much that the head begins to come up and you're looking to the front as you sit your bum back. You might have to move your foot position and then you can reverse that movement. So if you don't go all the way to sitting, come back up and bend and straighten the legs. Hands stay on the floor. Pelvis goes up and down. Sit bones looking at that someone behind you, looking away, bending the knees, straightening the legs, lift and lower the head. Maybe trying to place the hands on the right, so that right hand's on the outside of the right foot. Lifting and lowering your pelvis from here. And then putting the hands on the left, so the left hand's on the outside of the foot, and lifting and lowering the pelvis from this position. And then come down to the floor. Can you come down to the floor with your hands on the floor, bend your knees? Can you come down to sit, and then come and lie on the floor and rest. Come and lie down on the floor, rest, close your eyes for a moment, notice the support of the ground. That's it. As you're resting on your back, take a moment to visualize from your back that you're going to roll straight up, that your chin will come towards your chest. You're visualizing, you're not doing it. Imagine that your chin will come forward onto your chest, softening the chest and the ribs. You'll place the hands to the side of you. Knees can be bent if you want to. And you roll up from there. Can you imagine doing that? So you roll up and then you're sitting on your knees. So you have to bring your feet around and you could walk your hands forward. So you could be on your hands and knees. Can you visualize how you would actually do that from that lying down position? Visualize if you were doing that effortlessly with grace, without clenching your jaw, without holding your breath. So go ahead and begin doing it. Ooh, be careful. If you don't want to do it, that's totally fine. But if you fancy a challenge, so go ahead and begin doing it. So take yourself through the steps like you visualized it, just like you imagined it. So you roll up, your chin go towards your chest, soften the chest and the ribs. What do you need to do to your knees? What do you need to do to your hands? Maybe you need to walk your hands forward, bring your head enough forward so you can lift the spine off the floor. And then how would you from there come up to sitting and then go on to your hands and knees? And could you rest on your elbows? Could you lift and lower your pelvis? You're on your elbows and your knees, feet behind you. Can you lift and lower your pelvis from that position? Could you come back onto your hands now? Could you walk your hands forward a little bit further and lift and lower your pelvis? Bring your upper body forward. Can you get your pelvis a little bit off the ground? Keep walking your hands forward with the pelvis staying up. Maybe you have to get your head lifted. Lovely. Lovely. And then see if you could drop your chin towards your chest and walk your hands back to your feet. You could tuck your toes underneath you. And then from there, could you start to come up to a standing position? So if you come up to how we did with the bend the knees when we were standing before you got to the floor, now you're on the floor. So get your hands in front of you, get up on your feet and keep the head down and lift your pelvis and drop your head. So when you start to come up, you keep the head down. Remember, the head comes up last, your pelvis goes up first, and then as you come up, the head comes up. And then you can have a little walk around the room, congratulating yourself at doing such a tricky exercise, tricky session with the hips and with the feet. And think about how many times during the day you need to bend over and go down to the floor. So if you've got kids, you're always picking up toys. If you've got dogs, you're always throwing things, balls, picking up things for them, giving them food. Maybe you have to bend down to do your shoes up. You have to bend down to put your shoes on, to take your shoes off. Maybe you have to bend down to sweep up something with a dustpan and brush. There's lots of times when you're bending down. If you drop the car keys, you've got to bend down to pick those up. It's quite an essential part of being able to live your life is getting up and down off the floor. So you did really well today. You should be congratulating yourself. Don't beat yourself up if you couldn't do it all. These lessons are designed for you to try and progress as well. So if you only did a bit of this, you can come back and have another go and have another go and see if you go a bit further next time. So it could take weeks or months to get into the part of where you're going from. Sorry, trying to get that off the screen. From that part where you feel that you're actually lying on the ground and you come up to standing from there can take time, but it all starts from the beginning, from hands on the floor, bending the knees, drop the head, straightening the legs, looking up, bending and straightening. So you're getting this movement in the hips and movement in the neck and your spine. and then it becomes more familiar. And if something becomes more familiar, the brain feels safe. It's a bit of neurology and a bit of nervous system stuff, a bit of geekiness. If the brain feels safe, it's going to grant you the strength and it's going to grant you the movement. If it doesn't feel safe, it will do anything that it can do within its power to stop you from going there. So, which means tightness in the muscles and pain. Pain isn't always an injury. It can be your brain's way of saying, you don't normally go there. I'm not going to let you do that. So if our screen is our normal way of life for us, try when you go to reach for something off the shelf or you go to pick up a pencil off the floor and you've been doing a lot of screen work for a lot of time, you can get back pain from doing that. But my all I did was pick up a pencil off the floor. It's not the action of picking up the pencil off the floor, it's what you were doing before that, which builds up over the weeks, months, years, and just the brain just says, well, I'm going to give you back pain because I don't want you to go and pick it up because you're out of your usual remit of what I can see is your world. Your world is here. You're trying to go here. So the more you gradually allow yourself to go here, the bigger your movement and your range is going to become because your brain feels safe in allowing you to do that. I hope that makes sense. Thank you for joining me. Happy practicing.